Hey, hey. Welcome back, guys. Heather here. Figured I would come in and kind of do a preemptive kind of mid-month check-in for the month of May. And today we're going to cover the new moon that's happening in Taurus on May the 16th, but there's some precursors to it. So I wanted to go ahead and just kind of double back a little bit through what we've been building through because everything that's been going on thus far definitely contributes to this mid-month new moon in Taurus that we're having. Um, Before I get started, I just want to kind of do another little caveat here and add in that some of this stuff that I'm talking about, Miriam and I actually did a live stream this last Sunday. So if you click on our channel under the lives, the most recent video with her and I, definitely recommend taking a listen to it because there was a lot of stuff about what's going on with these transits, and we've had some big moves. So definitely recommend checking that out as well. If you're new here, welcome. We appreciate having you here. If you like what you see, be sure to give this video a like, share it with those who would find it helpful, and definitely come back. We'd love to have you hit that subscribe button as well and the notification bell so you don't miss any important videos or live streams that we do. Miriam and I do like to hop on Sundays and catch up and go over astrology, all the things that are happening with the transits, and if we get a chance to catch it too, we also like to use that opportunity to do tarot readings for our radicals or gatekeeper members here on YouTube. Also, all of our Patreon members get access to that. So, definitely would love to have you join the family. And I don't really have much else to kind of go on. I just really hope that everybody's doing okay. These past couple weeks have been pretty emotional and kind of mind racking, mind blowing in a lot of ways. I think, I'll just go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about some of the transits. Like, I believe it was on the 26th, we had Uranus move into Gemini. And I need to do a correction from the live stream. It's not going to dip back into Taurus. I was getting backed up on my dates, but yeah, it's in Gemini for good. And Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury, who is the ruler of Gemini. And it's making, an awesome trine to the air signs, including up to Pluto in Aquarius. So there's big innovations, big mind melding changes that are going on. And Uranus is sudden, If you hear any astrologer saying that they can predict what Uranus is going to do, they're full of crap because Uranus is unpredictable. How do I know? Besides being a learned astrologer, I also happen to have a Uranus ruled moon sign. My moon is in Aquarius. So I'm definitely used to those sudden rug pulls, the upheavals and whatnot. But Uranus, although it's the change maker, it's radical, it does bring on radical change. It's usually because it's needed, right? It is not malicious. It is not a malefic planet. It's about revolutionary change, and it's all for the betterment and evolution of our souls. So, anyways, we had that happen. What else happened? Well, shortly after that, and keep in mind, like most everything that we have going on right now in the sky right now is air and fire, right? However, it is Taurus season, so happy birthday, Taurus. We have we had on the first, we had a Scorpio full moon. And that's really preemptive to this. So these cycles that we go in with the full moons and new moons, I will just kind of say, so Scorpio was on the first, the full moon in Scorpio. This moon coming up on the 16th is the opposition. It's a new moon in Taurus. And then, yeah, we have another full moon at the end of this month in Sagittarius. So yeah, May is a pretty big lunar month. It is a blue moon month, so the full moon in excuse me, is considered a blue moon. So you hear the phrase once in a blue moon. It doesn't happen very often that we end up with two full moons in one month. And with all the themes that I will go through today, I believe that it'll help make a little more sense why so much internal navigation is needed. Let's put it that way. And talk about emotional and full of depth. That full moon in Scorpio on the first, right? Scorpio is a water sign. And it was making, also that day we had Mercury, the messenger, everything that has to do with communication, our mind. It conjuncted Chiron in Aries. And that was at 27 degrees. And that was going on at the same time that the full moon in Scorpio was going on. Scorpio deals in the realm of the psyche, psychological, it can even be psychological issues. But it has to do with issues of trust, loyalty, um, possessions, even. I know that you think of Taurus as being what we possess. Well, Scorpio is like other people's possessions, right? And what we share with others, what we have combined, whether you're talking about a mutual bank account or for me, my full moon story was luckily not so emotional. Mine was more had to do with something that I've needed to have wrapped up in. I have a natural Scorpio eighth house. So that's also like sex, death, and taxes. Well, I've had this, here's just a little story about mine. So I had it was like a tax return, right, from 2 years ago. And it got processed, it got returned, it got like I had done an extension because I was going through a big life change, right? And I knew I was due back some money, and I just had it was not enough for me to really balk at, right? So I just really wasn't tripping on it. And forever. I kept going back on I'd start checking this year and I'm like, well, what's going on? It still shows they're still processing it. This doesn't make any sense. So mine had to do with finding out that I guess they had sent a letter with some sort of identification thing to make sure it wasn't filed and fraudulently and that it was really me that was filing it. I got that handled and it said, okay, refund sent. Well, okay, the accountants that did the taxes, they're supposed to be getting the deposit, but I also found out that they hadn't got the deposit. And so my revelation of that Scorpio full moon was finding out that, good old Uncle Sam had not, there was something wrong with the routing and account number for where they were supposed to deposit it. So then that got updated just a couple of days ago. So hopefully issue resolved and I end up seeing a little bit of money back. So and it's kind of fitting considering the next, new moon is in Taurus, which is all about the money we make, and our income and what we possess, what we own, what we like even, right? It's Venus ruled. So anyways, on May 1st, there was I was so peopled out, y'all. Let me just put it that way. Let's just put it that way. Everybody was in their feels and pissed off Karens about it. And I just that some of it just didn't make so much logical sense, but it had to do but I mean a lot of it was very truthful and in depth and revealing. Mercury was conjunct Chiron and speaking about those wounds so anyways, I'm going to kind of move forward a little bit. Mercury went into Taurus on May the 3rd. Yay. All this Aries go, 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 go with all the planets being direct has been a lot much, a lot much. Um, the It moving into Taurus gives it more of a grounding feature, right? Which is pretty nice. It gives you a way to, with the Uranus and Gemini and all this Aries action, it's been giving us a little bit of a reprieve. And that's only been happening for a couple days. So you should notice that things are starting to mellow out a little bit. I don't know about you, but like still I can't sleep. My mind is running like crazy. Mm. But anyways, it helps kind of make people think twice, about what's important to them and especially in the realm of like relationships and how we say our piece, and how we speak our peace of mind. It's maybe a little more practical while that's in Taurus. So, so like I said, so everything that we kind of had been building up, there was people that had a whole lot to say, and some of it was shocking, you know. I've been hearing about relationships ending, and people finally speak their minds about how they're feeling and how they feel taken advantage of. They're not feeling cared for the way that they need to be cared for. And so when I talk about this month being kind of an emotional process, it's because it is. A lot of us have gone through, we've spoken our piece, we've heard what, our others feel about us, right? We've heard the feelings come out, and now Mercury's in Taurus, giving us time to ground on it. But, something that was said, something finally clicked, even, maybe even to help somebody heal something. Like if you had a disagreement with somebody, or if you had let's talk about Scorpio, if you had some sort of weird thing in your head that made you think somebody thought something about you in a certain way, and then you find out that it was really just your mind playing tricks on you. Maybe there was a final clarity there, that set a new tone for this next couple week period. So that's kind of like the backstory of what's going on moving into this Taurus new moon. But there's a couple of other lead ups. So tomorrow, I'm recording this on May 5th. So tomorrow, May 6th, we have Pluto stationing retrograde. Now, it's in Aquarius. We know that. And it's made it up to 5 degrees, 30 minutes. Okay. So it almost got to 6 degrees, but it's an outer planet. It's a slow roller, and it's like moving to a dead stop right now. Pluto is the natural ruler. It's a ruler Scorpio, right? So Pluto unearths those truths, trust issues, power dynamics. It is the planet of power. It really is power, and it reveals misuse of power in Aquarius. We're watching it happen left and right. And it going retrograde is going to lead into this new moon. And I'm assuming that this is going to be bringing on a place where you're finding out where somebody has been misusing their power against you in a way that is not right, not fair. This new moon ruled by Venus, Venus also rules Libra, justice, right? Equality, fairness. And so I would assume that very quickly. I mean, Pluto stations retrograde every year, right, for about half the year. So we've had everything going 100% direct, and now Pluto is going to go inward. Okay. And when it goes inward, it's a detective, right? And it's in Aquarius, which is the collective. And so I think that this is going to be, after the Scorpio full moon going into this, we're going to have a lot of people reevaluating um, what what they really value. Like, does that person mean that much to me? Does that possession mean that much to me? Does this job mean this much to me? I think that people are going to start looking at finances a whole lot different. I think that people are going to start looking at um, relationships that have had a whole lot of tension and trust issues a whole lot different. And, it also has to do with self-worth, right? So Pluto going retrograde also helps reveal maybe where some of us have been maybe selling some of ourselves short. Maybe we've been overselling ourselves, right? Like being better than what you know thinking, putting off that you're more skilled or whatever, that big ass lie on a resume, might come out, or all of a sudden you don't know how to do what you said you knew how to do. It can be a little tricky if you're not being 100% authentic, and all it is, we've still got all these planets and energy in Aries, and Aries is authenticity. Aries is truth. It is harsh truths, you know, and it's sextile Pluto right now. So there are some things that are helping. Universe is definitely help aiding along in your, I want to say, recovery almost, because it's like an enlightenment, or maybe even getting a peace of mind, or that sudden click with Uranus and Gemini of saying, okay, no more of that shit. This is what it is now. Let's go, kind of thing. So, anyways, that happens tomorrow. May the 14th is the next thing we have coming up here. So, May the 14th, a couple days before the new moon, that we're going to have a Kazemi. So, the sun in Taurus, well, Mercury's going to be Kazemi the sun. Mercury is slowly traveling through Taurus, and we're going to have Mercury's going to end up passing the sun, but because it moves faster, it's moving pretty damn fast right now, actually. So it's going to bring another super focus on, you know, on giving us some clarity, which we could use right now, right? Because with everything moving so fast, this wham bam, thank you, ma'am, what the hell was that? Um, it can be dizzying, it really can, especially with all the information we have getting thrown at us from all different angles. And, it's the good thing about it is with the sun being in Taurus, it's a lot more grounded than when the sun was in Aries. Okay, so that's good. So it makes it useful. It does. It brings more stability uh and a little steadfastness with it. So what I mean by that, so Mercury with the sun. Okay, that means that Mercury's meeting up in the sky and they're going to be like this, right? They're like having a little conversation, okay? And they're bringing forth a message, okay? A message of clarity, a realization, or something that's going to come through. It all depends on what part of your chart it's happening in. But it's not going to be out of harsh, like the decisions that we're making during the Kazemi, since it's happening in Taurus, is going to be a lot more grounded, right? Rather than, quick pull trigger, which is great. Taurus is all about slow momentum, and some in it for the long haul. So, um, you know, the fact that I'm going to bring up Venus and Taurus a little more. Okay, so Venus ruled Taurus loves luxurious things. It also loves simple things, beautiful things. things that float your boat, heighten your senses, whether it's, a smelly good candle or a bundle of flowers or a beautiful piece of artwork, I have yet to meet a Taurus that doesn't really like to shop. And I'm not knocking it at all, but whether you're a thrifter and you're really good at shopping and you maybe get a good buy or something like that, but it'll also help you see where maybe you've been spending too much. Let me just kind of, say that. So, but the clarity that we get during this time is something that's going to hold some long-term value, and it may be something that we need to take serious, especially moving into this Taurus new moon. So, the day of the new moon, which is the 16th. And hey, I'm just going to say, if anybody's watching this that is one of our peeps that just wants to show some love, I always have one or two people after I post my video that goes, timestamps. Can I get some timestamps? And usually I'm recording later at night when I'm already, done with my day and ready for bed. Now, so if any of you want to do the timestamps when I get to the all signs later on, I would truly appreciate it. Even if it's just commenting by the time you watch this, if you get to your sign and you want to put one sign in there, that would be helpful. I appreciate and love you guys so much. Thank you, thank you. Um, well, okay. So there's something that's been going on, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up the chart now. Let me share my screen. Let's get this party started. Okay, so May the 16th, we have the Mars conjunct Chiron, exact, right there at 28 degrees of Aries. Then this Chiron going through Aries has been a long track for us all. It really has. And Mars conjunct Aries or conjunct Chiron and Aries at 28 degrees. It's inflammatory as fuck. It really is. However, I will also say it's it's reaching its anaretic degree, right? And it's squaring off with Jupiter in Cancer at 21 degrees 21 minutes, and it's also squaring up to Pluto. Okay. It does have a nice sextile. That conjunction has a nice sextile over to Venus and Gemini, which may be helping provide a new perspective to that the action that we need to take about our own Chiron wounds. Okay. It being at 28 degrees, that's mature. There's only 30 degrees per, 30 degrees per sign. So you basically go 0 degrees to 29 degrees. Okay. So it is just about done with Aries for the moment, and it'll be moving into Taurus soon. And we'll go into that later at another video. And we've talked about it in the past couple live streams with Miriam. So really, I think that this new moon happening the same day, like so that's going to happen. That conjunction, it's basically going to bring out like from what we've heard, what we've been dealing with emotionally over these last few weeks, it's going to be a point. Mars is action, Mars is drive. And Mars is quick. It's still in Aries, which is it rules Aries, right? So it is it's at full strength basically, and it's meeting a wound and something needs to be done about it. So with it being at this point, the focus is squaring off with Jupiter in Cancer, talking about beliefs. It's very well could be beliefs about, well, if you're in the United States, we're a Cancer sun. Beliefs about like it beliefs everything from religion to politics to your home to your upbringing to family dynamics, to expectations. That's a lot about what this last live stream was with Miriam and I. So definitely check it out. I know I keep saying that, but it's all intertwined. And I know this is a Taurus new moon video, so I'm not trying to relive it all right now. But that call to action to address something, and to use that Venus and Gemini sweetness, the facts that you can relay, and it's like having a different perspective and taking action based off of the new perspective, and making a break from old belief systems. Whether this is something that somebody has expected of you, or an old version of you, or talk about so Jupiter Cancer, like I can't help but think traditions, right? Jupiter's like traditions in a way. I mean, Saturn is too, but anyways, it's like, maybe you're the one that hosts all of the family get-togethers, and you are always the one that does everything for everybody, and your life's changing. You've changed over the years. A lot of us have evolved, we've gone through shit, we've healed shit. It talks about confronting that shadow and going, okay, look, time for somebody else to take this reign. I'm busy, I have other things to do. I would love to come be a guest at somebody else's house. I know that's a weird way to think of it, but that's just one dynamic. You can make it fit however, whatever it fits in your story. Somewhere in your chart, you've got Jupiter and Cancer. For me, it's traveling my fourth house right now. So that Chiron Mars bundle there is, it's like setting those boundaries that need to be set, right? But with the sextile to Venus, sorry, it's kind of like not needing to be so heartless about it. I mean, Venus and Gemini, an air sign, isn't watery. It really isn't. But Jupiter in Cancer is floods. It's full of water. Okay. So it's like bringing practical solutions to help you break through some wound or something that you've been struggling to let go of. And this could be you on the receiving end of it. So just remember that if somebody comes at you this new moon, and or has recently, it's coming from a place of a deep-seated wound that needs to be spoken out loud and addressed, and it could cause conflict. It can cause power struggles. But you know what? If you've been doing the work, which I think all of us, have been doing the work in the Chiron and Aries, I mean, because we all have Aries in our chart and it's been there for quite a long time. But, you know, I would hope that, for those that have gone through our healing journey, that this is just kind of wrapping that up, like where we don't really have good boundaries, where we struggle to like say no, where we struggle to speak our truth and be like, you know what, this isn't okay anymore. It's not, I just, like, I had a visual of like a family dynamic where, there's, somebody that always shows up for the holidays or whatever, and they just are always putting people down, or making cracking mean jokes, things like that. And this might be the point where you go like, no more. Nope. If this person keeps coming, this is my boundary. No more. I won't be there. That's for a select few. I don't know why that scenario just got thrown at me. But with Mars squaring up to the Pluto in Aquarius, all right, you notice Juno just passed it too. I got stuff all over the place here. So Juno just passed it too. It's at nine a while back. Like, so it's at 9 degrees. Okay. And that does speak to dynamics and relationships, the people that we care about, the people that we would be faithfully loyal to forever, like depending. I mean, Juno is Hera, is Zeus's wife, right? And Zeus was a philanderer. Zeus always had like a harem of women and children and all that stuff, and Juno still forgave. So this is almost like letting go and breaking free. Juno's breaking free in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius is about, like I said, the power dynamics, right? And the collective view of things. She's, breaking through and breaking away and kind of finding her own way that might be a little different than what people are used to. So that Mars square Pluto. Okay, dynamics. It can be brute force. Don't recommend brute force. Okay. And I know that if you're listening to this and have any idea of what's going on with like the world wars going on and all that kind of stuff, and watching the news, people are really like snapping and breaking and do like just today I was looking through my news feed in my local hometown, and you're seeing standoffs, like people just losing their heads. Mars cut severs pews, you know. It's and Pluto is that power, giving it power. So you could try to use it constructively. I do recommend use this energy constructively, but just know that although it's a new moon and we're normally like, yay, it's a new moon, manifest, blah blah blah, and then it's a new moon in Taurus and manifest even more, and there's some there's some tension in it, right? Not everybody is there, folks. Not everybody is there. I'm gonna move in a little more into this new moon. So this new moon in Taurus, we're having, as you see up here, 3:01 p.m. Central Standard Time on Saturday, May the 16th. Okay. Um, that's the new moon at 25 degrees, 58 minutes. Right about meow, right? Okay, so I haven't talked about this yet, but a couple of caveats on this. So we've talked about the energies that are going on, that the avoidance factor is not going to be there. It's not. It's, everything's going to be right in your face. And it's, but hopefully, hopefully with Mercury, you know, uh, still in Taurus, and Venus in Gemini, hopefully it's going to be a lot smoother. How do I say? It's almost like that. I just saw like the angel devil on your shoulders, right? Like hopefully the angel's the one going, nah, dial it down. Don't react. You can't avoid it. This has to be handled and addressed like a grown ass adult. There's no kicking and screaming. Just suck it up, buttercup, if you will. But the new moon that we're having, so we round up, right? Like, look, it is almost at 26 degrees. Okay. I don't have it plugged in right here, but 26 degrees of Taurus is also where fixed star algol is. Okay. Fixed star algol is stationed 26 degrees, 31 minutes of Taurus. Okay. So this is within a degree orb, less than a degree orb. It is really damn close. So that's going to also amplify tensions, let's put it that way. And, so it's going to bring basically like some intensity to Taurus things, values, self-worth, survival, survival instincts, financial situations. Algol is the one that is a malefic fixed star by nature. I know those of you with placements on Algol at 26 Taurus are probably hating on me right now. I'm not hating on you because it also is a very powerful star, fixed star when used properly. And I know that those of you who have it have had your Algol moments. So Algol is kind of like the decapitation fixed star where, people have falls from graces, where they lose their head, right? Prime example of this is Trump. He's got fixed star algol conjunct his MC, right? His outer, he's always saying shit and, making everybody like hate him, right? So it's one of those things that is going to be very prominent during this new moon. So, the it just speaks even more to being very careful and methodical about the choices that you're making right now. Because, yes, new moons are planting seeds, right? So, this is a chance for everybody to go ahead and plant the seeds to help bring some fruition. Look at that trine from Pluto. I mean, boom, boom, boom. And I didn't even get there yet, but Ceres is also conjunct this new moon at 25 degrees in 1 minute. Ceres is more of a nurturing, a harvesting type planet. Not planet, like dwarf planet, asteroid, but it's a big one, feel free to do the research on her, but she has that like scythe looking glyph. But it's talking about resources, right? Cirrus is grain, wheat, like I said, the harvester. So, but it's also mama energy, interestingly enough. It's nurturance, how we nurture our bodies, how we nurture I'm going to say, because of Mercury being tight in there too, with all of this air energy going on, how we nourish our bodies, how we nourish our minds, even how we, nourish our little beloved pets, our home, our Vesta. I said like brought in Vesta all of a sudden. I'm not trying to confuse anybody. But so, you know, this happening right there too, being opposite Scorpio, I have to say, could also be when I was talking about finances, and Taurus is about like your money, your income. Scorpio is about other people's, like the shared resources, right? So it could also be, where somebody has to take a loan out. If something's getting out of, you've really got something you've been avoiding you need to do around the house. Let's just do home repair, for example. I know why that came to mind. But let's say you have something at home that you've been wanting to get done and or something that would enrich your lifestyle, your life at home. Some of you may be, wanting to go ahead and take out a loan. I would just say that with all of this energy and the square, the square that we have going on, the Pluto in there, Mercury in just read over the contracts. It's not retrograde right now, but the other energies could speak to some manipulation maybe on somebody else's part. Maybe somebody, if you try to get a loan, isn't being truthful about the interest rate, about the terms. So the power dynamic thing is so at play, and the new moon being right on Algol could be like, with all the energy, yes, it's, I need this, I need to do this. You sign the dotted line and realize within a month or whatever, oh my gosh, this is not what I agreed to. This is not what I thought it was. That was your algol moment. Psh, let's make sense. Yay. Yay, yeah, yeah. All right. And so yeah, that Mercury and Mercury being ahead of the new moon too, and going so fast and heading into Gemini, our actions carry weight. Mercury's going to be meeting up with Uranus in a minute. That's happening. I know that's going ahead, but that happens right after, the day after. Mercury's booking it. Like it goes from 28 degrees to yeah, it's like 2 degrees a day right now. So because like the 17th, it'll enter into Gemini and be conjunct Uranus on the 18th. So with that, there's just use the Taurus energy to slow it down a little bit and just think and be more practical about it. All right. So, woo, I would also say that with all this unpredictable energy that we have going on, that it would be if you're going to set plans, like that's part of your, new moon, whatever seed you're planting or whatever, be flexible, be adaptable. Okay. Uranus and Gemini, Uranus has been in Taurus, for last 8 years. And so when the rug got pulled, there was usually a slow build up before Uranus did that, right? And it moving into Gemini, an immutable sign, it's going to be a whole lot faster, especially since, it, it it hella vibes in Gemini. It loves being there. It's like, ooh, more information. Yay, yay, yay. Technology. Yay. Communication. Yay. It loves being in Gemini. So it just also does, Uranus is very unpredictable. And Mercury even can be unpredictable, especially if it's going to be meeting up with Uranus. So it just talks about like the movements that we're going through talk about needing that mutable energy, the whatever plans that you're planning on making. Make sure that you're not coming at it from the total Taurus hooves in the mud, I ain't moving, fixed, because Taurus doesn't like change, right? So I know all my Tauruses are hella relieved that Uranus is out of your sign. But moving, having, you got to have more adaptability. Let's just put it that way. You got to be flexible because plans are going to change, situations are going to change with Uranus. So be flexible with everything that's going on right now, and try not to. I always say with Mercury and with Mercury and Gemini and Uranus and Gemini there now too, um, and with the square of this moon, I'm just going to say, besides be open-minded, flexible, try not to overpromise. Expect that people may overpromise and underdeliver. The energy is very sporadic. I'll just put it that way. It's very inflammatory. So realize that you are not the only one going through a chaos worth of crazy stuff this past month or so. Um, Everybody's going through their own thing in their own way, and burnout is real. Distractions are real. That shit's going to happen. So absent-mindedness is going to happen. It just is. Try not to react. There's a different, try not to just react, there's a difference between assertion and aggression, y'all. But do your best not to be a flake. If somebody does flake, try to take it with a grain of salt. And remember, that's where I've really had to check myself a bit lately because there's been so many times over this past year that I found myself get disappointed. Virgo is still hosting the South Node, right? And we've talked about those expectations that Virgo has, those harsh judgments that Virgo can have. And I'm a Virgo sun, 1 degree, albeit in the fifth house. I can try to be, I can be patient to a point, and then I just can't. But we're going to have to let go of those expectations, Joe. And I think that part of that Mars Chiron square has to do with where we've been holding on way too tight to how everything's going to play out, how, not wanting to let go of control, Now, granted, don't let anybody overpower you, but also, be willing to call yourself on your own shit. And if somebody disappoints you, if somebody does not live up to their end of the deal, it does not have to end in blows. Okay. Um, Try to be compassionate. Everybody's going through their own shit. And let go of that need for everything to be fucking perfect. Because you could always remember. So, like, that whole thing of, you know, uh, being late to work or to where an important meeting or something like that. There ends up being, road construction. There's a detour. There's, whatever. Same situation. Something's supposed to happen at the certain time on the certain date, and the person doesn't show. You don't know what's going on in that person's life. Give a little bit of grace, a little bit of compassion and forgiveness, and wait to hear from them. If you don't, then what's the lesson in that? Discernment. Be a little more, maybe you need to, not put so much trust in other people to handle shit for you. I know I'm going through a lot of different scenarios, and I hope that the information is helping, and that it resonates and helps you find a way to deal with what you're dealing with. That being late to work may have been because there was a horrible accident, and universe was just redirecting you, giving you the roundabout so that you didn't get algold, right? Talking so much, I got dry mouth. All right. So let's see what else we have going on here. I mean, that trine, that Pluto trine to this Taurus new moon, and with Cirrus being there, um, I'm hearing power, I'm hearing perspective. You notice it's also making a sextile up here as well. I got Pallas Athena plugged in, and that's like the strategic warrior, you know. Since this new moon is where it's at with Cirrus there. Okay, resources, right? So I'm getting drawn to the fact that with the economy the way that it is, with the state of the world the way that it is, the energy crisis, the potential for energy type lockdowns, travel, inability to travel because of gas prices, I would expect that some things that are happening right now may start to get a little more volatile. Prices, the market may start to fluctuate a bit, but also like trying to be a little more crafty or thrifty about how much we're spending. About maybe, if you don't have like a good couple weeks, maybe of groceries or, dry goods, there's rice or, some, I don't know, cereal, whatever you fancy, beans, just some things that can kind of be maybe stocked up on, just food in general. I highly recommend maybe just maybe setting a little bit of money back if you can, but getting some things set back just in case for some reason you're not able to maneuver the way that you would like to, or in case the goods that you're seeking are not either affordable or available at the moment. Okay. Not trying to say go hoard a bunch of shit. I'm not, because that's just kind of crazy. Okay. But also, like, just Taurus it, be practical with what you're doing, be practical, and it will help sustain whatever Uranus and Gemini moments, whatever Pluto retrograde moments are going on right now, whatever algol moments are going on within the people running the world, the government, just try to keep things practical. And remember that with all this Aries energy, there's an Aries is about you. Aries is about you and what you can do for yourself. So it's very independent energy. All of it is. And if you're the one, you're, the parent, the grandparent, the sibling, the whatever that has the extra bit to help, and somebody else needs help, maybe it's a time to kind of just check in and say, hey, are you in need of anything? Maybe that's where you could utilize a little bit of that Taurian energy, whether it's making a friend, a dinner for the night because they're going through a lot of shit, and they've got kids to feed, blah blah blah, and they're just up to here with all of their commitments and they're tapped out financially and you want to help, maybe go help out that way. Don't know why that just came up. I feel like I'm kind of gossiping a bit, but not gossip. Oh gosh, gossip. Miriam and I talked about that. Gossip is a thing with all of this Gemini energy. Okay. And so do not allow yourself to be sucked into that. Please, you know who you are. You, regardless of what anybody else thinks about you, make that none of your concern, my dears. Okay. And stay out of gossip because it's with this algal energy, it's nothing good. Nothing good can come from it. But so what else did I want to bring up here? Um, what else do we have on this moon? So Pluto is also making a sextile. So you notice there's a minor trine there, between this new moon, Pluto, Pallas, and Saturn. So I mean that does it give it some options for long-standing type moves, which I absolutely love. And you know, I like I said, just stay flexible. Try to go with the flow, ride that wave as much as you can. And this month feel these past couple months feel so damn karmic, and before I move forward on this, I want to go into um a little more information about what's next. So we have the new moon. Mars is going to enter Taurus on the 18th. So, although nothing's really happening, like from besides tomorrow, we have Pluto station in retrograde. Like this week, we have a whole lot of, not a lot of shit going on until right before the new moon and then right after it. So, um, day after the new moon, we've got Mercury. Yeah, Mercury enters into Gemini. I already mentioned that. And then Mars is finally going to be moving into Taurus, making it slow down. Now, Mars doesn't really like to be in Taurus. It kind of, it's like, why are you slowing my roll there, buddy? Like, as heard Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last, like, why are you putting on the brakes? I don't want to slow down. But it kind of helps aid in the intentional moves that you're making. to help cap on your new moon manifesting if that's what you're doing. All right. So, and then the day after that, Venus is going to move into Cancer, and I like that. I mean, natally, I have Venus in Cancer, and it's a little bit sweeter, I think. I mean, with Jupiter still there, all the all the home life, the lovey-dovey stuff, the loving on your family, the feeling safe and secure at home, the baking the cookies, that kind of stuff. So, and really going after that, the sun's going to move into Gemini on the 21st, and then the sun is going to make a conjunction to Uranus on the 22nd, followed by the full moon in Sag, last day of the month, May 31st, full moon in Sag at 9 degrees 55 minutes. So, I know I went kind of out there on everything that is going on and leading up to this moon. I have a couple other things I want to talk about a little bit because I know I have, I haven't touched yet on the Sabian symbol or the Chandra symbol. So let me look at that. So the Sabian symbol, according to James Burgess, is a Spaniard serenading his senorita. And it talks about acting appropriately. Personal desires are acted out according to the permitted roles that our culture lays down and learning how to behave appropriately. So it talks about having this, like I just, as I'm saying this, I'm seeing the square on this new moon. How Taurian, right? Like it's serenading his lady. But that square to Jupiter in Cancer. So it talks about like having established our place in the community, partly by doing what others do, we can further our individual expression of self. We may look to do this through available social methods in sports, in clubs, and music, for example, and finding various roles by which to evolve our lives, often employing glamour as an expedient, right? So him adding in the music is Taurus. Everything sensual is Taurus. The senses, hearing, the seeing, the smells, the taste, the feelings, how something feels on your skin, right? So I love this. So if we looked at it, I mean, acting appropriate talks about as we speak, so we are. The skilled individual may have kissed the Blarney Stone and be able to add wit and humor to flattery in order to control others with the smooth silver talk of a silver tongue. That's that square to Pluto. Yet the wiser individual will see the futility in this misuse of glamour. The reality we encounter is built by what we think, say, and do. And every little contribution matters. A casual remark here, a white lie there. What's it matter? Well, it does matter. Each nuance of what we allow out has a subtle effect. It materializes. Those of us given to poetry and music are asked to honor these powerful devices as they create their effects. Through consistency, we can become the embodiment of the ideals that romance points towards. If the soul exults in the beauty of love's language, then we must be true to that feeling, or we betray it, as do prostitutes and gigolos. What we say must be true. As we speak, so we are. What comes out of our mouths is a measure of what comes out of our hearts. It is our hearts. If our hearts are to be true, then what we say must also be true. Also, we need to remember the vision that we're projecting into the world's future is not only that which pleases our own desire, it's greater than that because others participate in its creation. If our soul is to be undeniably present within our created vision, then so must other souls. This requires a kind of a courtship. Soul needs to be reassured, coaxed, serenaded, and won. To achieve this insincerely is a betrayal to the level of the soul, at the level of a soul. And it is difficult to think of a more poignant crime. With consistency, we learn that everything is at hand, that all we desire is already ours, and that no sense of the need for compromise is truly valid. I could not concur more. I love that. So, like, yeah, what's acceptable? What's socially acceptable? Like, are you everything you do and say, need to line up with each other, or everybody's going to know you're full of shit, like it's, it also talks about the need for, there's two people in this, right? Like it talks about him serenading his senorita, which, how fitting. Happy Cinco de Meow, de Mayo right now, today. But it's like this can't happen in isolation, right? It involves more than one person. It takes, it's situational. It has to do with, your it has to do with your environment, who you're interacting with. And so in a way it kind of talks about like getting, you gotta, you can't isolate. You have to get out and act on what you say you're going to do. Let's put it that way. And it talks about being sincere, right? And that's really important. I mean, just think about some of the things I've already said so far with these transits. Let's look at the Chandra symbol. So the Chandra symbol for 26 Taurus. I do have to say in this particular get up here, it doesn't really have the best. It can have really long run on sentences. So if I have to correct myself, sorry. 26 Taurus, according to Elias Lonsdale, Inside Degrees. Grotesque rocks in a sand garden. The inward image and the outward reflection are worlds apart, building up inside to a state of being that carries immense challenges. You see your own personal nature as an objective, universal force to be reckoned with, and persist in seeing egocentrically, preferring massively in your own company, contained within yourself, imaginatively self enchanted, yet also capable of radical turnabouts and rebirths, awakening false and true, great and small, knowing yourself to be somebody special, self consciousness enshrined, a dead end or path, oblivious or realizing the way of things, getting out of the way or being squarely in the way, self importance and its overcoming. Wow. So, like, okay, here we go, the ego talk a little bit. All of these transits that I'm talking about and all this Aries energy. Yes, Aries is the I am. It does talk about the individual self, but it is also the ego. And ego is not a bad thing. We wouldn't get shit accomplished if it didn't exist. Um, However, we got to kind of know what's valid and what isn't, right? What's acceptable and what isn't. And it's like, what's your perception or your ego's perception of you or a situation, right? Like what's your perception of your self-value, and then what's the reality, right? It's being it's warning against being self-absorbed to the point to where you're missing the point. Let's put it that way. And when you become, this has to do with that. I'm seeing that Venus, that Jupiter square again. And when you're talking about that square down to Jupiter, which is all about beliefs, higher knowledge, and it's in Cancer, which is all about our security, that talks about that area of ourselves and most people where they carry a big boundary of saying, nope, I believe this. Nope, what I say goes, what I say is right. And a lot of that is born from conditional upbringing, right? My grandparents believe this, and my parents believe this, and I have to do this, and I have to do this, and that's what life is, right? And no, I can't do that. What you're doing is wrong, and it's that should energy, right? So when somebody becomes so engrossed in their own belief and their own opinion and their own narrative, um, it's a way they avoid accountability for anything that goes on in the world or anything around them. And what's actually even an understanding of what's going on. So it talks about the potential for correction, right? The ability to recognize like where that distortion exists, and actually to be able, the mutable energy that we're also dealing with talks about how to maybe move it forward. Okay, it's in Taurus, which is very fixed. Again, Gemini is mutable. Everything's moving really fast, so we do have supportive energy to help move past those things. So it's one thing to be self-aware, right? And it's another to be self-important. The second one kind of leaves a nasty taste in your mouth, and everybody else's for that matter. So, not to say not to value yourself, because yes, you have to value yourself, especially when it comes to all this Taurus new moon, you know, but other people exist in your world, right? And, you know, remember where those other people that you value lie in your heart, right? Like, um, picking apart others' flaws or not acknowledging somebody else's wins can leave things can leave you really isolated. And if you're finding yourself in a place where you have nobody to go to anymore, maybe it's time to try to reevaluate. I'm not saying this out of because you've lost people for, whatever, breakups, death, whatever. But I'm talking about like friends. Who can you communicate with? Like, have you been so self-important that you've shut everybody out? I know I've had my moments of that. You know, it's one thing to isolate, and it's another thing to actually like keep a connection or rebuild a connection. Things are going to start getting a whole lot more social. So with that, you might need to see where you've gotten in your own way because of your perspective of things, and maybe even where it's been a bit skewed, or where others have had skewed perspectives of you, and it's time for you to call that out and actually just have a conversation about it, bring some clarity. So it's kind of a weird energy, right? If you talk about going from the Spaniard serenading his senorita to a grotesque rock in a sand garden, right? It's kind of like Heather. Like I said, it is conjunct algal. Okay. And it just talks about really where, we have to pay attention to where things are misaligned in our lives. If we want things to be fruitful, if we want things to be long term, and to like outwardly express how we feel today, like who we are now, then we have to be able to authentically live in it. And our inner needs to match our outer world. And it talks about the misalignment between the two. So, it's quite literal, you know. Are you okay? Let's go back to the Taurus things, right? Are you up to here in debt, yet still swiping all the time? I need this, I need this, I need this. Do you really need that? Or is that just to put on the show of being wealthy? Please don't get butthurt about it. It's a time where, like, these two symbols together and this moon at this degree with Chiron conjunct Mars, I have to say, it has to do also with shadow work. And whether you've been doing it or whether it needs to be done or whether the people in your lives need to be doing it and it needs to be done. Okay. So it's, I'm bringing up the matter of money just because it was something simple to think about with Taurus, right? To where we've maybe lost our heads, where on the algo moment, where we've spent, we're living way outside of our means, and we need to cut back. That's actually a logical thing to do, and we're not really acting out of. I mean, we're out of Taurus as an Earth sign, but we are in air and fire. Air is mind. It's logic. Gemini, same thing. Details, logic, information, all the things. Do you really need three cars for one person? Do you really need, all of those things? Do you really need all this stuff? Or maybe do you need to maybe, and I'm getting the community with being so close to that Gemini energy of are there maybe some things you need to donate that you need to sell because you don't need it anymore. I think that people's connections with valuables and what they value are going to be changing quite a bit. And people are going to be reevaluating that based off of all of these revelations that we've been going through and all of these changes in our lives, that look like I don't really need all of these. I almost said DVDs, but nobody uses DVDs really anymore. But like, do I really need all of these electronics? Do I really need all of this jewelry? Do I really need all of this furniture? Do I really need to live in this big of a residence? If you're downsizing, what can we do to make things more economical? But like talking about community based, looking at like your local thing. How could the things that you have be shared with your community? That's third house Gemini type energy. Do you have a bunch of books that maybe you could donate to the local library? I know that's all just random stuff, but my guides are like going to my head. So, if there's places where you're noticing that your world isn't matching the version of yourself that you want to be or that you feel that you are now, now is the new moon to make this stuff happen. It really is. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward a little bit. And I know I've been sharing my screen for so long, I don't probably need to share anymore. I'm going to go ahead and move into the signs. So timestamp point. I don't even know. Here, let me see if I can see how far into the video I don't know that I can see that here in Zoom. It doesn't really show me. Let me see if I make it full screen. No, no. All right. But so we're going to go ahead and kind of move into the all signs forecast here. And if you've made it this far, thanks for hanging with me and sorry for the lecture. You guys got to realize Venus in Cancer, middle-aged mama. I love everybody and I really want everybody to be able to thrive through all these changes. We're seeing a lot of people checking out, and unfortunately, it's a thing. A lot of people are checking out because they just can't take it. And, a lot of people have too many truths that they've been hiding for way too long. And Pisces is done. Shy of the North Node being there saying, hey, guys, just ride that wave of coolness and patience and compassion and get in touch with the most spiritual part of yourself and all of that. Pisces season, all the planets are in Aries. Like the big Saturn, Neptune is in Aries. No more avoidance. No more, all of that. And so if people have been being deceptive and avoiding a bunch of stuff, Pluto and Uranus and all this energy, and it is, and Chiron and Mars together, it is unearthing all of it. And some people are choosing to check out. You're seeing it all over the place, even with people who, you've seen be, public figures for a really long time, that have had some truths that they've kind of just been bearing and bearing and bearing, and then finally get to the point to where they're like, this is I can't wear the mask anymore, but I also can't be seen as anything other than what my ego wanted me to be seen for. So they just choose to end it and check out. Please don't do that. You are more valuable than that. And oh, there's a whole lot of beautiful things coming. Yes, things are hard, but it's all Uranus has beautiful intentions and Gemini for us. Even if a lot of those intentions come in the form of lessons, you got to be willing to take those lessons and go with it. So, all right, Aries. I'm gonna what can I raise up here? Let's do a card. Let's get a card. Throwing it up here for myself so I can see when I started my timestamps. For those that want them, I will get around to them when I can. But anyways, so let's talk about Aries and how this Taurus new moon is going to play out for you, and I'll give you a little more details on it. So with you guys, and I'm not bringing the chart back up because I didn't go through. I don't have the actual software to go through and have to manipulate everyone. I have to create a manual chart, so it is what it is. So the new moon is happening in your natural second house, your Taurus in your second. So everything that I've covered in this entire video applies to you directly. I know I say that every time, but it's like, it's going to highlight everything that you're needing to focus on. Like, so second house, you're, what focus do you need to put on your money? What brings you stability? And, again, with the boundaries and the self-worth thing, like, what is it that you're not willing to deal with anymore? What is it that you can't accept in going forward? And you know, uh, this, like I said, the lead up matters. All of that Kazemi. So I'm going to cover some dates here. So I told you on the 14th, we've got that Sun Mercury Kazemi that's happening in your sign. So that's going to bring full on attention, cannot be avoided, must be dealt with. But it's going to be practical thought, practical realizations about your income, rather than having that impulsivity. You'll have a little more groundedness when it comes to whether something's really worth the price, or does it really mean that much to you. So and it could also bring up, since this talks, second house also talks about the money you make, the money you bring in from your job, from your work. For example, it could also have to do with, are you being financially accommodated the way that you feel, for what you're worth, for the amount of work that you're putting in. You may have some clarity around there. And I hope you get a pay raise. I sure know I'd love a pay raise, or an extra little, extra little bit of income. But really, this is kind of like just internal. It's an internal focus. It really is, but it's stuff that means a lot to you, and you're going to know exactly what you need to kind of move forward. So that Mars Chiron happening in your sign, Aries. I know you're so over Chiron. I'm an Aries rising. I'm so over Chiron being in the first house. But so this can have some break free energy, right? With that square to Jupiter and the square up to Pluto and Aquarius, with everything right next to it. Just, if you've got some frustration going on, whether it's in the realm of having not enough time for you, and just kind of wanting to break free, maybe honor that a little bit. If you do need to break free a little bit. But if you feel like you're having to fight a whole lot harder than necessary to kind of get anything moving, or get any, boundary set or whatever, you're gonna really be feeling that you have to stand up for yourself. And that's an extremely valid feeling. Like I say, I would just remember the difference between assertion and aggression, right? It's your, because there's, and I don't, at 28 degrees, Chiron is more mature, but 29 is anoretic. And, this is where it's like, no more. I'm fucking done, like so you may be going through a break, and it may be in, depending on what part of your chart it falls in, and the fact that Taurus has to do with, your income and your self-worth. I got a mosquito. Oh, got the sorry about that. I know that was probably loud. I got the door cracked for my kitties. But if you know what you can't tolerate anymore. And whether that's work, a job, a relationship, a dynamic in regards to your monies, whether it's like you feel a calling that you need to be doing something different, and you've been trying to juggle a couple of different things, and it's just you have no more time for you, and you're peopled out. I can't take any more. If you need to break free, this is the time for you to go ahead and decide how, with something, rather than have it be impulsive, like lighting a match, and setting everything on fire. This is going to help you do it in a more grounded, practical way, to where you can be like that Nine of Wands. Like, you know what, I've earned this. I need the break. I need, not that you're really taking a break, per se, because there is no stopping you right now. It is just the need to break free. And you're going to have Mars Chiron is going to help you give and it's going to make you want to act on it. So whether it's like, hey, I need a night out to myself, I need a night away from the kids. I need to take a day of PTO, 2 days. I need a road trip. Whatever it is that you need, do it. So, just remember that with this new moon being talking about your resources, don't ignore and be too impulsive when it comes to the funds that you have available to you and what you need those for. You may have to just really, you may also be really focused. And with Saturn, I'm thinking also with Saturn being in your sign, uh, you do have some support in regards to setting up, seeing the square to Pluto and Aquarius, Uranus trining Aquarius. You do have support when it comes to having additional streams of income, working, I just heard working smarter, not harder, doing something that fills your cup a little more than what you've been just grinding on. Okay. Um, let's see. What else do we need to put here? You know, um, Not too much else. I mean, just keep in mind that what your actions do, like the Sabian symbol, like your actions have consequences, right? So just act with forethought. Give yourself the grace to have a little bit of a break if you need it. Don't be too over. Don't go overboard, right? Like you do have a very good chance of helping building something solid, sustainable, that's going to work for you for the long term. That is different than you ever could have thought possible. And really, that does kind of go for everybody with the energies that we're going through right now. Anything is possible. And so, what we all dream through Pisces season, it's all here and ready for us to go with it. It's just having those Aries balls to like go for it and pioneer and break free. So, there's your pep talk, Aries. I wish you the best, and love ya. Okay, so we're going to move on to Taurus, right? So Taurus risings. Obviously, this one's all about you as well, because it's landing in your first house, the house of you, and this is more about your identity, how you're showing up, what direction you're heading in. And if we're going to talk about the lead up to the moon with that Kazemi, that Mercury Kazemi to the sun on May 14th. So, I, and let me just say this, like the level of epiphanies that we're all going to be having collectively are insane. But I feel like with this Kasimi for you, it's gonna be direct, and it's like it's gonna have to do with you, your situation. You're going to get some clarity on something that directly involves you. It could be your health, okay? It could be a sudden breakthrough on a diet regimen, okay? Like maybe where you've struggled a little bit with self control. Is that the word I was looking for? Yeah, I think so. uh, moderation. It could also have to do with where maybe you have kind of or maybe like where you've kind of overdone it, or kind of snowed yourself a little bit in regards to overkill, burnout, doing too much for others, and or not being fully present in your reality. I know that's it's not exactly how I'm trying to say it, but you'll notice like whatever doesn't fit anymore has to go. And this new moon is a great time for you to plant that seed and set that boundary and um, create the actual changes rather than just overthinking it, right? Like there's no need to just overanalyze it to sit on it any longer. If something has been, if something has been whether you keep getting the hit yourself, like the hit of, oh, I need to change this, oh, I need to change this, or if it's your spouse or your friend or somebody that keeps saying, hey, what about that thing, hey, what about that thing, and you're like, oh, that would be nice, but I don't want the change, and I'm comfortable where I'm at. There's something with this new moon that is going to just kind of pop, gonna have that snap of clarity with that Kazemi. It's gonna flip that light switch on to help you through it. So um when I was talking a little bit about some of the changes that maybe need to be made, I have to kind of bear in mind that you've got an Aries 12th house, right? So this Chiron Mars conjunction that's happening the day of the new moon, that's internal, right? That's your deep subconscious. That's the spiritual side of you. That's also the house where besides spirituality, it's the house of self-undoing, right? It's where we lie to ourselves. It's where we don't really see so clearly, right? And so this can be um a sudden need for a change in a habit. 12th house is addictions. 12th house rules hospitals as well. So maybe there's something that you can't wait around for anymore. Do you need help because of substances or alcohol abuse? Do you need to take a spiritual retreat? Do you need to step away from the grind for a minute and actually focus on you and your spiritual self? Like, is there some sort of health matter that you've been ignoring that you need to kind of finally address? Mars conjunct Chiron. It's going to bring it's going to bring that need, and that revelation right before that with that Kazemi's could very well could be tied to that, or something that you've put off for long enough has to fucking be addressed. Okay, so um stop, not a time to make excuses for why you're not doing something. Okay, let's just put it that way. Okay, it's time to act on things. And so, come your new moon, you're you're receiving like the go ahead, right? To where it could be just like I said, a sudden epiphany that you have that helps you cut something off that you've needed to cut off for a long time, whether it be a habit or a person or a thought process, a belief, something, right? And so it's like, oh, that was cute. So I just saw somebody like a Taurus that was like a teenager, or acting like a teenager, but like looking in the mirror and realizing, hey, I am like almost in my 40s now. That's like, oh, I'm growing up, kind of thing. But it's like, or oh, I'm no longer want to be that person. Oh, I've made so much progress since back then, so all these different revelations I think are going to be coming through and help you be able to express yourself more authentically. And so if that for you means getting your hair did, if you want to get your nails done, you want to start going to the gym, any of those kind of things. You need a new bed. Are you I know you like all your comfy stuff, that's why I brought that up. But like, is there something that you need to do for you to help aid in your next step? Is it a gym membership? I'm thinking that local area thing. Is it a gym membership? Do you need to start getting into the do you need to ditch an old bad habit for maybe a good habit, right? So I know that's kind of all over the place, but I think that you have been kind of feeling the itch a bit to have some changes go on with you. But being a fixed sign and being slow at it, maybe this is a reveal. Maybe this is Taurus coming out and going, you know what? Off with off with the shut up. When I said shut up, I wasn't talking to you. So I get shown funny stuff. So I got shown Joe Dirt, right? So I got shown the party and business in the front, party in the back. Have you been sporting a mullet and you've just outgrown it and you need to like get a haircut? And like, are you needing to let loose a little more? Stop being so serious. Maybe there's something you've been wanting to do. Maybe it's getting yourself a new tattoo. I whoever that's for. Not trying to enable you if it's a problem. But yeah, so it's just I think it's letting go of a version of yourself that no longer is relative or relevant to who you are today. We all have pasts, we all have done things and been through shit, and this is kind of like reinventing yourself. So Taurus, I love you, and you got this. Gemini, Gemini. This one is happening in your 12th house, which I was just talking about with Taurus. So the 12th house for you is again what you may not be able to see so clearly, right? And so this Kazemi that's happening there in Taurus in your 12th house, it's like it's something that may have been kind of just working in your unconscious. It could be something you're working through in your dreams. Something that has been taxing your psyche, that you haven't really been able to see properly, like whether it's a pattern of self-undoing, or an I mean, I guess it could be a thought process, but I think that with it being in the 12th house, um, it's more like an unconscious thing to where maybe a way that you react. or a way that you act out, some sort of dynamic within that you're not aware of that happens. And it doesn't always work out the way that you want it to or that you expect it to. I think it has to do with like, uh, in Gemini, you're full of information, right? So your 12th house is a place that you don't have a whole lot of information. Yeah, I mean, it's a house of spirituality and stuff, but it's also, like I said, what is unseen, where we self undo and things like that. Oh, goodness. So, and I'm getting procrastination. Okay. So, if there's a place in your life to where you realize that you're always late, you forget about things until the last second because you're so busy doing a bunch of other things. Gemini, I mean, you got Uranus in your sign. This next 8 years for you is going to be lit, but it's also going to give you the predisposition for hella distractions, right? And these distractions can also be like epiphanies and sudden spiritual psychic downloads and all these things. And you're probably going through some adjustment right now, and with this Taurus new moon and this Kazemi, you may need to find a way to handle those moments a little bit better, because they're there and they're going to be there for a while. So the sooner you can get on it, the better. Um, it's something that you don't have to act on it immediately. Okay. Taurus is slow. Okay. So slow integration. Gemini does good with repetitive patterns. So what they say, it takes like 3 weeks, 4 weeks to form a habit, right? So if you find yourself needing to come up with a different practice, whether it's needing to ground yourself in a different way. So if you find that you can't sleep at night, because I can see where this is going to be a big problem for Gemini. You find that you can't sleep at night, you can't wake up in the morning or whatever. Um, Maybe look to see what is keeping you up. Are you stuck scrolling on your phone? Are you playing video games? Are you binging too much? Whether it's anything binge, streaming programs, or uh, binge house of self undoing. Are you, you know, drinking too much? Are you partaking in the devil's lettuce too much? what what have you? I hope you laughed at that one. Whatever it is there something that you can do or alter? Because if so, this is the time for you with this with these transits. I think that you're going to get a little aha moment. Don't rest on it. Start implementing it immediately and make it a practice every single day. Whether it's setting your phone down, look, I'm not going to touch my phone at least 1 hour before I lay down at night. Okay. Whether it's setting it down across the room on a different side of the room, or getting yourself a second alarm, that maybe has extra loud bells that is on the other side of the room. So you have to get up and you can't just hit snooze. Is it, setting reminders? Are you, if you have something that that you need to do at a specific time, set a timer off on your phone. Like I know those are just little things, but trying to give practical solutions here. Okay. So this so where the Chiron wound is in Aries with Mars on that conjunction, that is happening in your 11th house. And so May 16th, it'll be exact. And that's your community. Those are your friends. That's group dynamics. That's your connection to the collective, the larger audience, right? So there may be something brought forth that day that's like, hey, this isn't vibing anymore. This shit isn't working for me anymore. Or where like it just feels misaligned or out of sync. You're like, you know what? Okay. So take it for what it is. Okay. So I just saw like this person that had like for years and years and years gone to I don't know why I got like magic and LARPing, live action role play. So like getting together and playing cards with this group every week, right? Or games or something like that. And just all of a sudden you realize like it's not all of a sudden. It's something that you've been feeling, right? So it's just like, oh, like this, I'm really not feeling it anymore. This is actually a time that that's going to be brought to the forefront, and you're just going to have to learn to say no. I'm sorry, guys, this isn't working for me anymore. Obviously, not all of you go have, friend hookups every month or week or whatever, but maybe there's some group or organization or something that you're a part of. Maybe it's an online community, but that people just start you're not vibing with it anymore. You kind of just want to bow out. It's a time where you need to try to do it, definitely do it gracefully. You don't want to burn bridges. This isn't a time to do that. But with that full moon happening the same day, or the new moon happening that same day, um, especially conjunct algo like it is, it's most likely something that's been taking from you. So if you feel like you're being taken from a little too much, whether it's monetarily, one, is it something that you're spending money on that you're just like, I'm done wasting this? I would rather put it to something else. Is it, oh, goodness, with it, another moth, that was a moth, sorry. But with it being in your 12th house, uh, sorry about that. It's more like, letting go of a habit, right? But you're finding something where just it's not working anymore for you. And it could just be thought patterns in your 12th house. Have you been thinking about yourself in this certain way, or that, have you been thinking about a situation in a certain way that's just leaving you drained and feeling like unworthy almost, or something that, whether it's a friend dynamic that you have. I'm getting the friend dynamic thing to where like um you've been friends with this person out of loyalty forever, kind of like a ride or die friend, but you realize that this person just doesn't ever do anything for you, right? And you love them, but your subconscious has been kind of erring at you going, hey, this ain't right. Hey, you deserve better. Hey, whatever. It's time to go ahead and act on that. Set those boundaries that you need to set, cut off what you need to cut off. And you'll notice that, like, when Mercury enters your sign by the 17th, Gemini, that you'll notice that, hey, it's like whoo, a weight's been lifted off my shoulders, right? Woo! Yeah, because Mercury in your 12th house is kind of confusing and daunting and overwhelming, and sometimes can even make things a little confusing or even misaligned to where you're just not, like I said, not seeing yourself properly. Okay. So, Gemini, that's what I got for you, babes. Love y'all. I'm gonna take a sip and move on to Cancer. So for Cancer risings, Huns, this new moon is happening in your 11th house. That's your community. That's your house of hopes, wishes, dreams, the even the incomes that you make from all those hopes, wishes, and dreams. But it's like your friendship groups, right? Your networks, your long-term goals. And so let's double back like I did for all the other signs. On the 14th, we have the Sun Mercury Cazimi, right? That's happening in Taurus. So this is actually quite exciting. I like this for you guys. So this Cazimi in Taurus is actually, I like this, all of this for you. It's bringing some clarity to like not just the community that you're with, but your future and where you're like what you've been building towards and your future plans and whether that aligns with the people that you're currently with. So it kind of carries a little bit of piggyback on what I was just telling Gemini. But so you, so it's like you're going to get some sort of a epiphany or enlightenment that helps you realize whether or not this is the group for you, whether or not this is the actual goal or has the goal is the goal shifting. Like I'm almost seeing that Uranian vibe of something coming in unexpectedly. So there might be some big change that pops in, some clarity that comes in all of a sudden about your future and the groups that you're involved with. You may actually even be invited to join. Somebody may see your worth in a way that like changes the directive a little bit in a way that really lights your fire. So I love that for you. Now, one thing that we do have to talk about, especially, oh, and if this is a community to where you're like, you've been building a business around something, this makes sense. So you've had the Mars Chiron conjunctions happening in your 10th house. So that is your public role, your career, right? Like how you're seen in the world. And it talks directly about where things aren't fitting right anymore. Or maybe, your focus, the path that you've been on are a bit misaligned, where possibly you've had to push way too hard to get where you're at to not feel valued the way that you need, for all your hard work and dedication. And it very well also could bring a straight up conflict, like confrontation, um, with a superior at work, with a parent, with a authority figure of some sort, to where you have to just stand your ground and be like, look, this is that, boom, throwing it out there. um I'm hoping that you're, with it being Taurus, making sure that you have, your next already ready to go. That way, in case since that conjunction's happening, like right at the point of this new moon, and the new moon being conjunct algol, make sure that you have that new beginning set up if you do plan on kicking rocks, right? Like have your next lined up for you, Cancer. So and it very well could also just be with that activation, because I know you love your security, but it's also maybe just pushing you too far, where somebody's expectations of you and your role, like you've been doing, let's say you've been working and doing so much above and beyond what your scope of support is within your job, and you're like, Yep, if I'm gonna have to do this shit, you're gonna have to pay me $3 more an hour." Like I that's just kind of a way that I saw it kind of playing out. But there's a wound there, and Mars is going to push Chiron and go, giddy up, say what you got to say, Chiron. It's gonna come out. And with that square to Jupiter in your sign, I know you've got big, big, big emotions about it. Okay. So, you know, say your piece, and, let somebody know where things are misaligned. And if it's not a matter of letting somebody know and it's a change that you need to make, Cancer, um, then I think that this new moon actually helps shift your focus forward towards helping you build that long term that you're looking for. And so this has a lot to do with expectations and assumptions for me. Like when I'm thinking about, like, it has to do with, what is this, something that, again, out of habit, out of creature comfort, Taurus, right? All about the creature comforts, right? If this is something that you've just done repeatedly because you've always done it, and this is the way that adults are supposed to do things, or whatever, based on assumption that you're finding that you're kind of outgrowing, then this is the point where you go ahead and start to make those changes, right? Oh my gosh, it's one of those really big mosquitoes coming over here. Oh, I'm sorry, I got the door cracked. I may have to go handle this because if it flies in my face, I may just have a freak out. um, but yeah, it's something significant, and it's it brings into focus, like, the collaborations that you're in, the group involvement, and or even, like, if you're a content creator, it could just be your audience, right? Like, is there something that's been asked way too much of you and you just always kind of bend and break, and now it's a time where you're like, you know what, no, this isn't working for me. This is my platform, and I know that I need to make some changes for my own security and my own sanity, and this is the way it's going to be from now on. You know, but it's where you can, like, if you need to put your foot down, you need to put your foot down. And so I know it's not comfortable. I know you're good at making the moves. I mean, you're a cardinal sign, but it's you're not usually willing to do it unless you know that it's something that's going to work out, right? This is where I think Cancer does need to let go of control a little bit on the outcome. Let go of needing to know the way everything's going to play out, because there are definitely, I mean, you got Jupiter in your sign, the benefic, right? And he's only going to be there for about 10 more degrees. So utilize it. Universe has your back. What's meant for you is yours, and it's already yours. It's just, are you going to reach out and grab it and make the changes that you need to make, to accommodate who you are today and what you value today versus, what you did back then. Um, so that's what I've got for you. Cancer, I love you guys. And I'm going to go ahead and pause for just a second so that I can kill this thing before it lands on me and freaks me out. Because I know y'all don't need to see that. So give me just a minute here and I'll be right back. Let's see. Okay, and of course it flew away. So I couldn't get it. It's, those big, like, mosquito looking things that are like that big. Creepy. But my girls like to go out on the balcony, and, they're my babies. So I let them go. I let them go. Okay, so here we go. Leo. All right, so Leo. Hi, beautifuls. This one is going to be landing in your 10th house. So bringing focus directly to your career. Okay. And so this has to do with how you're seen in the world, your long-term direction, and all that jazz. Did I just say that about Cancer? Like, if I did, I am so sorry, Cancer. Ass hat today. I'm sorry. That's what I get. That's what I get for um, winging it. But so let's talk about what this looks like for you. Um, let's see. We're going to talk a little bit about so May 14th, right? Like that's where that Kazemi is going to be happening. So um this new moon in your 10th house and then the Kazemi happening in your 10th house. I feel like such a dick right now. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to cut this video and trim it because I really feel like I need to redo Cancer, but oh my goodness. Excuse my language too. It happens. But your everything that I just said for Cancer applies to you. And it has to do with your reputation, and you're going to get some clarity that comes through about your role, where you're headed. There's something that's going to come through, and whether it has to do with your career, your next step in your career, just or a shift, maybe you're starting a new job, maybe the Scorpio full moon that we had, you ended one and you're getting into a new one. But there's a shift, and it may just be a new role or a new realization that you have um about how you're being seen in the world, right? Like something's changed with you, Leo. And I believe that you realize at this point with the Sun Mercury Cazimi that you've got to honor that deep feeling that you've been having. And so this has I mean, it bears fruit. I mean, if this being your 10th house, that's where the reset's coming. So I'm really curious, Leo, what you been working on? I mean, I think that if we look at the change or realization that you're having, Mars conjunct Chiron in your ninth is definitely playing a role, and that has to do with your vision, your higher knowledge, your belief systems. And I mean, education is ninth house. So if there's been something holding you back with the Mars Chiron conjunction in Aries over your ninth, um, this is going to be the point where that's going to help push the change that happens on the new moon. So that Chiron conjunction on the 16th to Mars is where there's going to be some tension that comes through to where you're just kind of at a breaking point. Okay. And it doesn't have to necessarily be bad or impulsive, but it's going to have a lot of feeling about it. And it's a lot about your beliefs. And it could also have to do with something in regards to travel, because that's also ninth house matters. But I think that it also has to do with a change. I feel like I feel like Leo's been going through some changes in the way that they see themselves and the way that they see the world. And I believe there's been some realizations about how you feel seen. Um, and I think that it's something you've kind of been self educating yourself about, if that makes sense. So if there's, something that you've been trying to learn, like something you've noticed internally a little bit where, um, since, the Kazemi happens in the 10th, maybe it's like something that you have been doing at work, some way that you're seen in the outer world that you've noticed a shift or started to have a different belief about, and you're like, nah, that's not me so much anymore, right? Like, I feel like maybe Leo, like you guys have been looking into whether it's I'm going to say spiritual knowledge, whether it's gaining a new trade, learning about a new trade, learning about a new religion, learning about, exploring travel destinations, um, looking more, dreaming more in a way. I mean, yes, ninth house is Aries, but it's a Sag house, right? Like I think something has been being fueled within your fire that has you wanting to take initiative and realizing where there's been blocks, right? From getting you to go through, getting you to be able to actually move through and make the breaks that you need to break to have a breakthrough. And I'm also like envisioning too, like where there's been a gap in knowledge. Ooh, there it is. Oh, still missed it. That was a littler one. But where there's been gaps in your knowledge, right? Like, in regards to, well, this is the vision that I have, but I don't quite have all the parts or the tools to make it happen. And I don't even know where to look. Like I've looked online, I've looked here, I've tried here. There's nobody here. I can't find anybody that is an expert in these fields. Like it's almost like needing a mentor in a way. And I really hope that whatever you've been coming to knowledge with, I feel like this conjunction is stirring a bit of a frustration. And I would just err on the side of caution when it comes to the new moon being conjunct Algol, okay, in your 10th house Taurus. So, oh goodness. Again, it's one of those things that you want to make sure that you have everything correct before you get it. Not that you can have total control of exactly what the outcome is. The ninth house calls for a whole lot more trust than needing a whole lot of control over everything, right? And clearly, there's some changes in the belief systems. There's some changes in the knowledge base that are occurring, and I would recommend using this Taurus new moon to make it your breakout a little bit to where maybe if you've learned to do something different, let's say it's in a career, right? Um, let's say you've learned this new thing and you feel like that is something that you would like to present to your employer about getting maybe what do you call that? Like an apprenticeship almost, right? If or there's you have let somebody take on a role of doing an apprenticeship or something to where you're shadowing under somebody in the role that you're interested in getting, because that kind of ties that ninth, 10th house together. And so, it helps you. This new moon that's happening in Taurus, since it's all about everything that you value, and right now you've been having a whole lot of feelings happening in your ninth house about your belief systems and maybe how people see you and things like that. This is actually, I think, where you open up your mouth and you go ahead and act on it, right? And you decide, look, I'm not okay being seen as, wow. Okay. This is not necessarily how I think of you or anything, but I'm being shown like I'm not okay just being the fry guy anymore, with doing the basket of fries in the fryer. Like I want to work the drive-through. Like I know that's a horrible way to put it, but you get it, apples and oranges, whatever. You get I think you get what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not okay being a peon in the company anymore. I want to go to corporate, or if it's in regards to I no longer want to be the student, I want to be the teacher, like that kind of shift. And that's exciting, and that takes a whole lot of bravery. So just be careful how it comes off, because with the new moon being conjunct algol, that fixed star that I was talking about, you don't want to lose your head, jump off in the deep end, and not know what you're doing. Make sure that you come at it proper, with a proper knowledge base. And I mean, your confidence will take you miles. That's a given. But you also want to make sure that hey, is that role that you're looking at really something that you want to do? I recommend taking into account the ninth house vibe that you do have. The ninth house, like, talk to a mentor, talk to somebody that's already in that role, and is it really all it's cracked up to be? Like, what are the upsides, what are the downsides? But I know that you're ready to make this shift, and it feels like a leading thing, but it also feels like something that's going to add to your self worth in a way that is tangible and sustaining long term, Leo. And I'm excited about that for you. I love you guys. Wish you a happy new moon. I'm going to move on to Virgo risings. So, Virgo, this is new moon is happening in your ninth house. So, higher knowledge, education, beliefs, long term visions, right? Belief systems, of course. But it's on the Kazemi, that one's going to be happening on the 14th. Okay. That's where the Mercury your ruler is conjuncting the sun. Okay. In Taurus. And so it's going to bring about some clarity on where you're headed with your long-term vision goals. And it could mean some travel coming your way. I know that with the world the way that it is, travel may be limited to local areas, but it could also be long distance. But it's, ninth house is also the area of publishing, right? So the Kazemi has to do with, education, higher education, something that just expands your reach. So, it could be just kind of a epiphany about, like, hey, um, I'm an expert in this field, this field, this field, this field, this field. What do I call myself? Like, it's kind of how I'm seeing it, in a way. But it's like, clarity on how to narrow something down to streamline something that's going to move you forward on your path for where it is that you're wanting to go, and something that you've been needing to fulfill on a tangible level. There, you're going to get some sudden clarity on that, and I love that for you guys. And it could also be, like, learning. It could also be, realizing that, the pushing and the needing to go forward on something hasn't been panning out the way that you've wanted to. And, you may realize that if it is like a matter of publishing something, or um, something that you've been trying to learn, you have a mentor or somebody, and you've just kind of outgrown it, it could be an epiphany about something like that too. Um, all right, so let's talk about the Chiron Mars, because that's big. It's in your eighth house. And that's happening the day of the new moon in Taurus. So May 16th. And it's happening in your eighth. That's been happening in your eighth house, Aries. Okay. So, ooh, this is a house of shared resources, loans, debts, financial entanglements, um, really deep emotional ties that you may have, whether healthy or unhealthy. Um, it's basically like everything that's really intimate to you, right? And so I think that there has been a lot of pain and transformations in this area for you Virgo risings. And you may be seeing where perhaps there's not equal weighting in what's going on, whether it's a dynamic in a friendship, in a relationship, where maybe you're sharing finances, where you're sharing household responsibilities. It could also be, you know, could be where you're in over your head. Um, I'm getting that thing to where it's like, where it could be loans, finances, to where um, you may have something complex coming forward from the eighth house, from eighth house matters. And eighth house matters can also be like taxes, insurances. It could be about money, and it could also just be about trust dynamics and power dynamics. And maybe it is also a matter of, and I'm getting the whole will inheritance. So it could be something to where something hasn't been moving, and it's got you to the point to where with this Kazemi happening, like right at this point, right before this Mars and Chiron squares Jupiter and Cancer and Pluto and Aquarius. It could also be in regards to family dynamics, right? Like to where um, you notice that you can't trust certain people that you thought that you could trust with certain secrets, or maybe finances with somebody that you love. um, and something has to be done about that. Okay. The new moon happening in your ninth house could also be knowledge that you're gaining. I mean, we did just have a Scorpio full moon, right, Virgo? So maybe you came across some information and some knowledge during the Scorpio full moon that was so in your face. You're like, wow, I suspected, but this is the truth. And what do I do with the truth? So the new moon period helps you shift into that. And it very well could be just some new knowledge that comes forth. Maybe you dig in and you find the right connection to talk to and get advice from. And so it's something that, like, because that's a house of beliefs too, right? Around things that we value. So if that's the case, it's one of those things where you may have to be like, okay, well, is this really worth it for me? I have this piece of knowledge, and I see where things aren't on equal weighting, for example. Do I does this person, does this situation mean that much to me that I, can't make the change that I need to make? Like, or do you need to cut somebody off? I know that's weird. Do we need to just have a um, emotional confrontation about this and have a, do I need to bring this knowledge to somebody else? Do we need a mediation? Somebody to step in and go, or bring in this information and go, hey, like it could be if it's a shared project or something like that. And you need to step in and go, okay, well, look, I found this information that contradicts, this knowledge contradicts this particular thing. And with the wound of Chiron and Mars, there's a need to act on it. And it could be that there is it's been playing on your psyche a lot. Maybe you're spinning yourself in circles over this dynamic that's going on and this choice you have to make. And this new moon's going to help shift it back into focus of what your true long-term vision goal is, and what your true intentions are. So, it's it may not necessarily be the most comfortable shift. However, when you actually make the, it's like Hecate, right? You may have a crossroads at a certain into something that is certainly intimate to you and hits you all up in your value system. And this is where you've got to make that, you're at that crossroads. You got to make a choice. But once you make that choice and you commit to the path for the long term, that supports your ninth house, um, make sure it's one that fits you for the long term and that is not just a short term band-aid. Let me just put it that way. And things are going to start moving forward relatively quickly. Um, Expect to find out more information too. I'm getting that as well. So with it, if you're feeling really pressed, don't stay stuck in analysis paralysis. You've got to be able to make these moves. But I believe that the once you make the commitment to which way that you're going to be going, I have got a mosquito or something flying in my face. I'm so sorry. Um, the transits that we have right after, and with Mercury moving into Gemini, there's going to be all kinds of more information that's going to like just start flowing, and you're going to have quick downloads about what to do. So keep and being ninth house, that being, I think that if that is like, in a way universal, right? It's our connection with spirit, with our beliefs, it is like a God house. It's typically, it's about that higher belief system. And so maybe even, communicate with your guides. I know Virgo doesn't like to have to ask for help, right? And you want everything to go right, but maybe ask for a little bit of help from your guide, your spirit guides, somebody that you love and respect, and that wouldn't steer you wrong. It's not, don't be afraid. Like, you're not the only hermit around, okay? There's other people, there's other hermits or elders out there with information that may actually help, but it's something that I think that you're going to get a lot of clarity around, and I do wish you well in this transition. We're going to move forward to Libra Rising. So this new moon, my Libras, beautiful, beautiful Libras, is happening in your eighth house. Okay. So, again, that has everything to do with shared resources, financial agreements, emotional and deep emotional entanglements, the psyche. When it comes to finances, like taxes, insurances, inheritances, anything that might be shared, a shared type resource or other people's monies, right? But it's a house of intimacy. It's a house that has to do with deep psychological things, not just emotional, right? But you're going to get some clarity with the Kazemi that's happening for you. The Sun Mercury Kazemi is happening on the 14th in your eighth house, Taurus. So you may actually see something a little more clearly in regards to all of those particular things I just mentioned, right? Especially money if it involves another person, right? And it could be whether it's, somebody you having a sudden, somebody suddenly giving you money, right? Like where you didn't expect it. It could also be about a debt, right? Because it's also loans, investments, um, or just the financial obligations in general. So this is where like the reality of a situation is brought forth, right? So it could be, oh my gosh. So I just got shown like a dynamic to where we've got a couple, right? And they share the finances, and one spouse finds out that the other spouse has been keystering money somewhere and saving it as they're pretending they're broke, or somebody's spending a bunch of money on addictions or Uh, spending money in nefarious ways, and hiding it from their spouse. So those kind of dynamics could definitely come into play. But there's going to be some clarity that's going to come around about the reality of it. And so this will help, like, this is going to be directly related to um, the Mars Chiron activation in your seventh house. Okay. So there has been that wound going on, and Mars is going to activate that need to take action on it. So the seventh house is your house of relationships. Okay. Um, your house of all your personal relationships and I mean, it is also the house of open enemies, right? It can highlight where things are not Libra balanced the way that you like it. Okay. And it's gonna where you're gonna actually need to set some boundaries about a situation, and you're gonna be like, look, I've told you again and again and again and again, this does not work for me. You've been trying to be Libra nice, right? Trying to be fair and cordial, right? Mars conjunct Chiron, squaring Jupiter in Cancer. Excuse me. Talks about home dynamics all day, family dynamics, security, beliefs around security. And that isn't necessarily the most comfortable thing to talk about, right? Especially if we've got secrecy happening. But sorry to say it, Libra, this is a point where, like, you've got to really stand your ground on some boundaries. And I mean, obviously, it could also be somebody trying to confront you with something. So with that, just be prepared, I think it's something that you've been dealing with for quite a while. And so it may not be that big of a shock, but that, you're going to get a little bit of a pss, 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 pss in your ear or in your intuition a few days before that, a couple days before that, kind of leading into it. But with this new moon happening in your eighth house, especially with it being, I said especially with it being conjunct algal. And I mean, it is Cirrus too. So it talks about the need for compassion, but also not to lose your head. But it could just feel a little extra more pressing for you. Like something has to be done like immediately. And if something hasn't been, gosh, I'm seeing somebody being gaslit, and it's not right, it's not fair. Like, the eighth house matters, especially with Scorpio being your opposite, opposite your eighth house Taurus. I'm seeing somebody downplaying your feelings and your emotions and your reality the way that it is. And if you know that it's clear and you've been clear on your boundaries, but you have not really, like, said it, not just set it in stone, right? Like, look, this is your deadline. If this doesn't change by this point, I'm out, or you're out, or whatever. And this, I'm seeing the relationship dynamic playing out in like a couple. Okay. But it could be anybody that you're in relationship with, whether it's a business partner or, I mean, I guess it could be a work colleague, a friend, anybody that you have a relationship with. There's something that needs to be changed, and pussyfooting around it isn't getting you what you need. Mars and Chiron in your eighth house is, it's stripping from your identity. And you definitely are changing. And I think that you're growing some of those Aries balls. I know I've already said that before in this recording to somebody else, but I think that it could just be a call for a reorganization of how something's done. So, like, let's say it is the dynamic to where one person is holding all the finances. Okay. or all the resources, and you're not sharing them, or they're not sharing them. It may be a time to where it goes, okay, we're changing the dynamic. Let's sit down, have a sit down. You're taking care of this, that, and that, and I'm taking care of that, that, and that. Okay, okay, bye bye. Like it's got to be firmer than whatever, because it's what's been happening. The dynamic is eating at you at a soul emotional level, Libra, and it's got to change because it is affecting indirectly your self-value, and how I'm getting secure, your security as well. How secure and valued you feel, and how loved you feel, and how respected you feel. And so don't let, with it, with the ogle, don't burn the bridge if they mean something to you. Okay. Don't burn the bridge. Be willing to negotiate, but look, we're putting this on paper. Or we're having this talk. We're sitting down and dividing the assets, dividing the responsibilities, because this weight is becoming too much and too taxing. So, anyways, I wish that I had some other great bits of advice for it, but I mean, I think that after you get it out there and you address it and you just have this, you may also find that something that you thought was maybe a trust issue really is, or something that you thought was a trust issue really wasn't necessarily. I'm getting also that it could be just a lack of sincere communication and clear communication. So, wish you well this new moon, Libra. Um, Move forward to Scorpio. Scorpio rising. So, my Scorpios. This new moon is happening in your seventh house of relationships, obviously bringing relationships and everybody that is in your vicinity. Anybody you're in a relationship with comes into focus with, basically. So, on the 14th, the Sun Mercury Kazemi is going on there and bringing clarity around partnership. Um, it could be business partnership, it could be romantic, but it is directly one-on-one dynamics. So it could just be with, also to have to do with an agreement that you have with somebody else. So this could bring clarity to where somebody actually really stands, or maybe even where you've been kind of iffy on something, and you get that clear message of, nope, this is how I stand on this. And you're able to see like what maybe is, what's been missing, and then you get sudden clarity on it. And it could also be like what this dynamic in this relationship or contractual agreement, is this really showing what's being offered? Like, was it everything that it promised, right? And so with the Mars Chiron conjunction, it's happening in your sixth house. So kind of your everyday life. That's happening on May 16th. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip past that. But so this is your, your work. It's your health, it's your pets, it's your daily habits, your rituals, your responsibilities, kind of the lame-o house a little bit. But there's definitely been some dynamic that hasn't been working. You've had Chiron and Mars on the 16th. That's they're going to get kind of to a boiling point, or a culmination to where something that you've been doing every single day just isn't working anymore, and it's got to fucking change. Okay. So this is could be like where, and it could be your health too. Like there's something that you're being tasked with, or taking on, or have been taking on, or avoiding, because of your health, and or you've been taking on and it's hindering your health, and maybe somebody else needs to help out, whether it's, helping somebody helping vacuum or do the dishes or take on this task or that task or this honeydew, whatever. Um, but you've been kind of really pushing through it, and it's coming at the health at the expense of your time, your body, your health, your it's cutting you short from other things that you could be doing. And I feel like you're getting really burnt out in that area. So that's something that needs to be adjusted, whether it's delegating it, whether there's something that needs to be delegated or changed with your work or just your day to day. Do you need time for yourself at night and you get none and you got somebody up your butt all day? That's just, it's a common thing that people have to deal with. And, it can come to that square point, the square point to Jupiter and Cancer and square up to Pluto and Aquarius talks about a need for change in regards to the belief systems about the way things have been rolling around in the house or, the way things should be because of upbringing or social conditioning. But it has a lot to do with your security and your beliefs around security and the shoulds, like all the shoulds. If you're I'm getting the dynamic of a trad relationship to where um you know it's you got the traditional husband and wife, and the wife is the stay-at-home mom, and she's got to do the dishes, and she cooks and she cleans, and she takes the kids to the park, and she makes sure that they get their teeth brushed and does this and that and makes hubby's lunch for him, and then like all the things. I'm just getting that dynamic thrown to me as an example. And hubby provides, he goes to work and he comes home and he sits on the couch and he doesn't move until it's bedtime, with the exception of a few groans, and he's in bed to sleep. And this is the dynamic every day, all day, every day, and it's just not working anymore. This is where that uncomfortable set of boundaries has to be laid, and there needs to be an adjustment. Okay. So the new moon that happens that same day as that Kazemi, or that conjunction between Chiron and Mars, that's in your seventh house. Talks about relationships that you value, you know, your relationship with the things that you value. Let's put it that way. So the relationships, it's gonna mark a reset in your relationship. So with the proximity to Algol, like we were talking about being at the same degree point as this new moon, you know, that determination to go ahead and like, look, uh this dynamic's done. I cannot do this anymore. It's going to shift. Just like, if the relationship is worth valuing and you don't want to lose it, and or um it just don't lose your head when you're talking about it. Don't get so caught up in your emotions, or don't. And I got to say this with you, you have to not worry about the power dynamics. What I mean is, don't think that the other person's gonna. I mean, obviously, there's been some things that you feel taken for granted, but you can't keep it to yourself anymore. There can't be secrecy. You have to be able to open up and say how you truly feel about this, because authentically it is draining you to your core, and at a soul level you just can't take it anymore. If this moon is happening in your this reset is happening in your seventh house, especially if it's a relationship that you want to continue to have and to hold and maintain, whether it be, like I said, a remote romantic one, or like a work dynamic, or something like that, a business partnership. It's really important that you don't just do like what I'm trying to get at is control tactics. Okay. So the dynamic of, well, if you don't do this, I'm not going to do this. Like it might need to be a little more even kill to be like, look, okay, here's what I've been doing. And I physically, emotionally, I cannot do this anymore. I need to delegate. Are you willing to delegate? Do you value our relationship well enough to delegate and take some of this off my plate? Or vice versa, right? But there's going to be a confrontation that's going to happen. And, as long as you handle it with the compassionate heart that I know that you have, um, but like have to be open and honest. Not You can't be secretive about your feelings about this. You can't just hold it in and just hope it'll blow over, because it's not going to change. But you can't just go on assumption. Like you can't just assume, oh, they'll never change. You don't know that. Maybe there's more going on with that person than what you realize. Maybe they can use this as a point to also be able to be open and communicate and express some things that maybe you don't know that have been going on, that have been, maybe somebody's going through depression, maybe somebody's going through um, something. I know that this was a very targeted way that I've said all of this, but I'm getting it for somebody, and so this is how it's coming out. But I mean, really, it speaks about a way that you relate to others. Okay. Let's just put it that way. So, there's going to be a shift in the way that you relate with others. I mean, I hope it means that you become a little more trusting and of others. Scorpios aren't really notorious for handing out trust on a silver platter to anybody and everybody. People have to earn it, right? But maybe that is something that's been holding you back, that needs to maybe shift a little bit. Maybe there are some people that you might need to be able to trust to handle some of those day-to-day things that, maybe you've been having I'm the only one that does it right, so I might as well do it. I just that's what I've got for you guys. I love you guys. Wish you well with this new moon. We're going to move on to Sagittarius. So Sagittarius risings. This new moon is happening in your sixth house, Taurus. So it's talking about, the mundane things, right? The everyday habits, work, routines, how you manage your time on a day-to-day basis, um, the uh, the habits, the rituals, the how you handle your day-to-day. So, as I've mentioned, the Kazemi that we're having with Mercury and the Sun on the 14th of May, that is going to bring some clarity through to you, and maybe, again, something that needs to be changed, tweaked, modified in relationship to the way something is not been working or doesn't work anymore so well in your day-to-day habits, your day-to-day routine. Um, as it should be, right? Like something's not working right, whether you're noticing that you are on full-on burnout, whether you're noticing that um, you're taking on too many tasks at home, and there's somebody else there that, maybe isn't pulling their weight. Let's put it that way. Maybe you're finding that procrastination is an issue. Maybe you're finding out that you're working way too damn hard, and there's not any. Maybe your home life is in disarray because you're working too much. Okay. Maybe your house needs cleaned, deep cleaned. Maybe you've been hoarding, and it's more so out of avoidance of wanting to deal with it because you're so busy and burnt out from work that, you just haven't found the time, whatever the thing is. Okay. So, anyways, there's going to be some clarity that's brought forth, and it very well could be, um, with it being like a Kazemi, it's like a sudden real. It could be a sudden realization. Okay. So let's. That's horrible. So I just got shown the visual of somebody that like has been putting everything into one part of the house rather than finding a proper place for it. And then all of a sudden, you're seeing mouse droppings. And if you got one, you got 10, right? And you're like, shit, I haven't even looked at this stuff in ages. Maybe I need to purge it. Maybe I need to get rid of it. I'm starting to get rodents. I know that's horrible, but it's like a hoarding. Like it could turn into like a hoarding thing, is what I was getting. So it's kind of like, something's getting out of control and there's a sudden realization of, oh shit, we need to do something about this. It could also be, like, a matter of habits, work habits, maybe something that you're noticing that you're taking on way too much, or you found an easy, maybe even find an easier way of doing your everyday. I hope that's a sudden epiphany that you guys have at that Kazemi point, because that's really that would be helpful, I'm sure. It's almost like figuring out something that helps you with your time management a little bit better. Like, oh shit, that shortcut existed. I never realized it. Awesome. Yay. Great. That gives me an extra half hour of not having to do all this other busy work. Could be also the Kazemi as well. Oh, I just saw like pets that were not getting as much attention as they would like, and maybe there's a realization that you're not getting as much bonding time with your pets as you would like, and so that might spark something that goes on with that you need to find some change, and that kind of moves me into the 16th. So 2 days later is the Chiron Mars conjunction, or Mars Chiron conjunction, and that's been happening in your fifth house, Aries. Okay, so that can bring Mars is going to take some action, right? And it's about that Aries wound. And in your fifth house, and your fifth house is everything about the way that you are able to express yourself. It's your creativity. It's your, I mean, it could even be a romantic situation. But it basically highlights where you haven't been like the Mars Chiron is like a friction where you haven't really been able to express yourself the way that you want to express yourself, and or hasn't felt fully aligned with who you are, and so there's like a need for a break, or a sudden push for action. Being the fifth house, it could also be, I know I said romantic situation, but it could also be like I'm getting like childhood dynamics, like I guess play, like where, let's say, especially around the matters of the sixth house. So, like, if your workload has been too heavy and you've got too much going on, or you're taking on too many responsibilities at home, and it's all work and no play. That's kind of what I'm getting, right? Like, that could activate that wound that needs a change to be like, look, I'm doing all of this every single day. Where is my time going? I don't have any time for myself. I don't have any time to invest in my creative projects, what my creative ventures, my hobbies. I don't have any time. When is the last time I went and decided to go fishing, or go for a swim, or like do something for me, that's fun? When's the last time I went out? When's the last time I went out and shot some pool at the local pool hall or bar or whatever? Like, I don't I it speaks to a wound there, Um, and maybe even like getting the parents thing. So it's a house of children, right? So if you've just been bogged down with the everyday thing of the kids and the, maybe you've got young kids that need constant attention. Maybe you got teenagers that need you to be their taxi all the damn time, right? Like all these obligations and stuff. But it activating the fifth house, and there's the need for you to have your own fucking life, right? Can the kids maybe have, do you have somebody that you can have come over and babysit? So maybe you can go have a date night, right? Like so that you can get out and enjoy yourself as an adult away, like to where you can express yourself and let your, let yourself have fun and play a little bit yourself, right? Like there's it definitely seems like there's something off balance here that's going to be brought into focus here at this new moon. And that's happening the same day that Kazemi is with Chiron and Mars. So, or I said Kazemi conjunction. So with the new moon, it's happening in your sixth house. So whatever epiphany comes through with that Kazemi with Mercury and the Sun on the 14th, it's going to help prep you for a solid long-term solution in your sixth house matters, right? Okay. So whether it's delegating, whether it's, getting hiring a cleaning service, hiring a once or twice a week nanny, that's random, but it applies to somebody. But, it's, and it could just be a workspace problem, like it's taking you longer to get shit done because you have constant distractions coming through. Do you work from home? Do you have your work environment in a central location to where it's constantly and you're still, hey, somebody's always needing you, right? Like maybe there is a rearranging of the home office, or a rearranging of a schedule, a little tweak or modification that gives you the break that you need. But, anyways, something's getting pointed out where it's just not working anymore. And I know that you've been feeling it. I really hope that you get the relief that you need. So that's what I've got for my Sag. Love you guys. Capricorn and Capricorn Rising. So this new moon in Taurus is happening in your fifth house of fun, creativity, your hobbies, sexy time. So romantic escapades, let's put it that way, right? And just like, the house in which you actually choose to invest your energy in, which is incredible. It seems very artistic to me. So, or creative. The 14th, we're having that Sun Mercury Cazimi happening in Taurus in your fifth house there. So it's gonna, like, the Cazimi Mercury is a communicator, right? So it's gonna bring forth some bit of information or even clarity. It could be a sudden insight. It could be that you hear it from a friend, right? Or your romantic interest, right? But there's some clarity brought around about something that you care about very personally, right? It's what you value. It's what means the world to you. It could be also a friend coming forth and saying, "Hey, I've got this creative project going on. I would love," or this business idea. Yeah, fifth house is also entrepreneurship. Um, or like somebody that you're romantically interested in coming in and going, "Hey, I like what I see, you want to take me out," or vice versa. You also could be just like coming to a realization of where it could be the opposite. It could be something to where it's like, yeah, well, it's not working for me anymore, right? So that you're going to get clarity one way or the other on the 14th with that Kazemi. So on the 16th, which is the day of the Taurus new moon, you're going to be having that Mars Chiron conjunction happening in your fourth house of home, family, roots, your emotional security, and it's going to hit you in a pretty profound area. I know it has been already. You got Aries over your fourth house. You've been dealing with something about your home or family environment, and with this, it's not a comfortable transit. With Mars hitting it, it talks about a need for a change, a need for an adjustment, and it highlights it and kind of makes it to where you can't ignore it anymore. Something's unstable, something's unbalanced, and you've got deep feelings about it, and it needs to be addressed. It is most likely a home situation, a family dynamic that has to be addressed, and you just can't work around it anymore, right? The new moon that's happening is in your fifth house, like we were talking about, and it's hmm, if you have been having, let me put it this way, if there's been a dynamic to where um I know it's the new moon's happening with algal as well. So like I'm trying to fill in that feeling as well. So if there's something in your fifth house area where even if like I'm just going to say you got to be careful on the dynamics, especially if you're working on a entrepreneurial type business where you're sharing responsibilities with somebody else, maybe a friend. It could be just it could have more to do with like time, but is it being balanced properly? And or is it wasting too much time doing something? Like I can just see it in the way of like, oh, I really love doing this part. So you spend all this time, and it could be a creative modality, right? Or it could be, I really dig this person so much that I keep spending so much time with them that it's like cutting into my home dynamic, or it's cutting into my ability to equally, hold equal weight in this creative endeavor that I'm supposed to be doing with a friend, or something like that. So with it, just you gotta. I think that you're going to be getting some clarity that's going to help give you some grounded perspective on um, what's worth what's worth your time, your energy, and your motivation, right? Something isn't working right, and it could be that you are just being asked, like if you share a space with other people at home, and you find that you're covering everything yourself, and nobody else seems to be doing their part, and it's taking away from you in a way that you are not able to invest the time into your hobby, or the passions that fuel your soul, and it's really just eating at you. This is going to be the new moon where you actually start to implement some changes. And I mean, that is wonderful, because that will not only help fuel your desires and your passions and fulfill your, I just saw the sun card. Oh, the strength card, the sun card and the strength card together. Very, very Leo fifth house. So what's feeding and fueling your desires? You'll have more time to do that. And when you can express yourself in a way that is authentic, and it makes you feel fulfilled, by proxy, the people that are around you in your closest home environment, they do reap the benefit, because whether you're involving them, which was a plus, or if you're just there and you are happy, they notice that, they feed off of that. And integrating them both, fourth and fifth house, like if there's a lot of busyness that's going on, or too much of the same mundane shit to where it's everything the same time, dinner every night, then 3 hours of TV, and blah, 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 and nothing's changing. It could be a dynamic to where you're like, something's got to change. We got to start making it a priority at least once to twice a week to get out and, you know, take a walk together in nature, go to the park, go to the movies, we got to make it a point to go play pickleball. I don't know why I just got that. I've never played pickleball. Seems fun. But like I just saw like a family dynamics happening, like going and doing things together that does not involve just either doing work on the house or sitting on our ass not talking, right? So that's what I've got for you, Capricorn. I hope that helps and resonates. Love you guys and wish you the best. Aquarius and Aquarius Rising. So this new moon in Taurus is happening in your fourth house. So everything I was just talking to Capricorn about, kind of like home, family, roots, your emotional foundations. There's some clarity coming through on the 14th with the Mercury, Cazimi, the Sun, and Taurus. And so there may be something that just all of a sudden it comes like a sudden epiphany or realization that you come to in regards to your current living situation, what your sense of stability and what it is that you need to feel secure. And got to bring in the groundedness because you got Taurus too. So it isn't just about it's about security and feeling grounded and feeling like you've got a steady home base. And it could be something that's just super practical, right? Like it could be like a sudden flow of that was really cute. I just saw like the dynamic of a couple of living mates, whether you're in a relationship, a marriage, or if it's just, like roommates, to where, like one automatically by default goes and starts taking out the trash as the other one's doing the dishes. And it's just more like a sudden realization of, man, this is a pretty smooth dynamic, like we've got each other, like when you're with somebody long enough, you start to like fall into habits with each other and things kind of fall into sync. So it could be something like that, or it could be the opposite of that, to where you notice that there's an imbalance and something needs to be said about it. But whatever's going on about your sense of stability and your living situation, it could be a matter of like, since it's Taurus, which has to do with your values and your finances and stuff, it could also be where you're realizing that maybe something's not working anymore. Maybe the place that you're living, and investing your money to rent, whatever. Maybe there needs to be a change in that. Maybe it's not suiting your needs anymore. And maybe you need to live in a different type of environment. You may notice that there's, maybe some expenditures that have been going on that you realize you can cut out. Like, look, we don't need that shit anymore, right? Like that could be something that simple. But and when it comes to security, it could also be an epiphany about I keep talking about the balance, right? Is it practical? Are our finances matching up? Or is there equal investment towards our security, or is one investing more than the other on the aspect of Chiron and Mars on the 16th? Those are conjunct in your third house. So you can definitely expect that you're going to feel the need to say something. Okay. Like, I mean, the third house is a house of communication, right? And there's something that you see clearly that isn't working. Is or isn't working. And if you're talking about the third house, with that conjunction on the same day as the new moon, because the new moon is going to mark a reset in your fourth house. So if I go in order, sorry, you guys I've been going for quite a long time now. But with this happening, this Mars Chiron, it's like a wound in regards to how you communicate. it could be a way you think about something. It could be, um, I'm getting analysis paralysis, right? Like it could be that you've been dealing with something that like you want to say something, but it's never been the right time. You don't want to step on anybody's toes. That could also be one. But there's a truth that is going to be coming out in regards to something at home that needs to be changed in your home or uh, emotional foundation, right? So that Mars Chiron conjunction in your third house, um, you might be finding that you're getting maybe you've been getting into spats lately, right? Like maybe there's been some disagreements, and it can be disagreements with, friends, yeah, technically it could be family since it involves home stuff too. But it could also just be um not being happy with somebody's decisions, or you yourself struggling to make decisions, and then suddenly something needs to be said directly, right? There's no more pussyfooting around it. There very well could also be with Mars Chiron. It could also be just a misunderstanding, right? Because Aries can be quite impulsive, okay? And Chiron and Mars is very strong there. And that strong push is meant to help bring some sort of clarity with Chiron, because Chiron's at the very end degrees. There's something that has to be said. And I think that you've been doing something at a level of detachment almost, to where you've been putting up with something. I know that this kind of went in a different direction than where it started, but I feel like it's something that's going on or not working right in your home dynamic. And there is a chance here with this new moon to help change all of that, and that conjunction happening the same day is going to help clear up some misunderstanding that you have. I think that the dynamic may be that somebody might think that you're ignoring what they've been saying. That's kind of how I'm feeling it. Or that you feel that somebody's been ignoring you and your feelings about something. And there hasn't really been good, solid communication. And I think that this is an opportunity to help solidify that. Especially if you're talking about stuff you value, right? People, everything in that you emotionally value with Taurus over your fourth. Um, it's it's definitely going to require putting some emotion in. And I know that, there's not a whole lot of watery stuff going on, but there has been up to this new moon, right? And although Aquarius is not notoriously the most outward with their emotions per se, or much of a watery sign, it can definitely be pretty cold and detached. Not to say you don't care. I know you do, but it's more like, I love everybody in the world, but I hate people, kind of thing. So like that's how it can come off. And maybe it could be that you feel you're being dismissed, or somebody else feels that they're being dismissed. And so therefore it's creating this awkward emotional vibe at home, and it's making things seem like it's not working properly. And or maybe there needs to be some adjustments made. So seems to be a little bit of an unspoken that's going to come out, and it likely is going to come out from a pretty honest, honest place. Okay. I would just say that if it's you getting the information, try not to get butthurt about it. Okay. And just cut off somebody, because I know that can be easy to do. But look at the holistic view, right? That's what we're good at. That's what Aquarius is good at, right? Like look at the overall. Like if these adjustments are made, then things at home can run a whole lot smoother, like I if maybe it's a matter, oh, that's interesting. For whoever this is, I just heard put a ring on it. I know that's random, but it's kind of like somebody wants a commitment. Okay. So, that's kind of the gist of what I got out of it. So it's like there needs to be some sort of a commitment made, and maybe things have been just kind of gradually mentioned or put out there and then just not really implemented. And it's leaving an uncertainty, which is kind of making things feel a little ungrounded and uncertain in the home life or the emotional foundation, right? So, hope that helps, Aquarius. I've been talking all night. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. Love you guys. Pisces and Pisces rising. So, this new moon in Taurus is happening in your third house of communication, house of siblings, your immediate environment, right? Yeah, the way you learn, even. So, I'm going to double back a little bit to May the 14th because right before this new moon, um, the sun, the Mercury is going to cazimi with the sun, and that's happening in Taurus in your third house. So you actually may have some sort of a clarity come through in regards to a sibling dynamic, in regards to I want to say like it could just come just straight from communication, right? Like you getting a message, right? Like you getting a direct message that tells you, something you were unclear about. But it's basically going to come through conversation. So it could be writing via text, it could be a phone call, but it's something that requires a quick turnaround. Okay, so it's like how do I say? It's like I just saw the Eight of Wands. It's like a quick turnaround of information, right? And it's something that helps you see something differently or a little more clearly, actually, in a situation that allows you to move forward with more certainty. So, expect a direct communication, or it could be a direct insight, not gonna lie. Um, let's move forward and talk about the Mars Chiron conjunction, because this has been in your second house, stirring that wound around what you value, your money, your resources, your self-worth, for good Lord. Your your value, your time, like everything that is important to you is kind of coming to a head. And this has been ongoing for quite some time. It's finally reaching its culmination here. And so, oh, bless your heart. I mean, it's in the house of everything, like your money, your income, and then the opposite house is excuse me, is other people's incomes and things like that, right? Like other people's resources, shared resources, let's put it that way. So it could be a point to where there is a need to address something pretty immediately and to make an immediate change in regards to um, those matters, financial matters, your self-worth, yourself. It could be your self-talk too, now that I think about that. But it has to do also with I mean, Aries is you and your energy, right? So like it could be where you're like spending too much. I'm getting like exhaustion, right? Like where you're wearing yourself thin, whether you're wearing your wallet thin because you're spending too much on impulsively, right? Like are you doing too much impulse buying, right? Is that leaving you at a point to where you feel like shit every time you do? Are you falling into, I also get, are you spending it on things that just to constantly try to make yourself look more valuable when really, like at a emotional level, it has more to do with how you feel about yourself as a person? Like, is there something more inwardly rather than externally that you could be like putting so much focus on or finances on? Are you, is there an imbalance in the sharing of resources, right? Like, are you finding that you're just like, you're shelling everything here, here's your lunch money, like here's the rent, here's the this, here's the that, here's that, and like here's this, and you're down to like pittance and you got nothing left for yourself. There's some dynamic that is not working, and you're not going to be able to ignore it anymore, because that is also the day of the Taurus new moon. So you're being primed to be able to have an opportunity to actually make a change by communicating this, right? So it could be that somebody's communicating it to you, but it's also like so it's information coming in, or you're saying something that can help mark that reset for that new moon that's happening. So, um, like like it could also be like you don't really know how to talk to somebody about something, right? And the new moon happening in your third house with its proximity to Algol, again, like I said, Algol is, the fixed star that has to do with beheading, right? Losing your head over something, right? It's something that, I mean, Aries is quick pull trigger, and Mars and Chiron is like picking a scab. All right, like that's how I'm seeing it visualized, or like lighting a match and throwing it onto gasoline, right? So you got to be careful with algal how the communication works. Like if somebody says something and it has some truth to it, rather than just bite back or, you know, um avoid hearing what's being said or avoid saying what needs to be said, my Pisces. Um, it's this new moon is planning, like saying, okay, we can do this reset, but you're gonna have to say something. You're gonna have to communicate it. It can't be. mm, It can't be fought, right? Like it can't be tit for tat. You can't be fixed in this way. You can't. If you want long-term change for the better, this stuff has to be addressed. It has to, a decision has to be made. You can't be stuck in the uncertainty and the, oh, well, I know this problem's there, but I'm not going to look at it. You have to be willing to actually look at it, and if it involves somebody else, have that conversation, work to come to an agreement and or solution, right? And things will definitely get better. You know, when the things and the people that you value are happy, and it's more apt to make you happy, right? Like if your money's happy, if you got happy wife, I heard like happy wife, happy life, like that mentality, right? Like if things are good and communication is good, man, how that could change and heal for once and for all, like that Chiron wound that you've been dealing with in regards to your self-worth, in regards to your values, you know. So I'm excited for you guys. I mean, it's important to communicate these decisions, and the decisions made right now, the conversations had right now carry their weight in gold, my friend. They really do. And it's going to set the tone for what comes next. So whether you got to write that letter, send that text, make that call, just have that conversation, do it. You know what you need. If there's something that you need to cut back on because it's been a little too much, do it. This new moon may actually favor, like, since third it's happening in your third house, it could be like you like, I totally just saw somebody doing the whole Gemini function of the third house, which is like typical, right? Like seeing somebody scrolling, having something suddenly come across. That's the Mercury Cazimi, right? Having something suddenly come across their news feed, or your Instagram reels, or your TikTok, whatever, that you is a perspective that you had never really thought of before, and it gives you that aha moment, and it gives you a way to look at a personal situation that you've been dealing with so long, that's been affecting you, that it just clicks. And this new moon is going to help set that foundation for a long-term solution. Love you, Pisces. I have been talking for hours, it feels like. And Yeah, month of May 2026. Two full moons and then one new moon in Taurus smacked in the middle with some weird energies going with it. So these are weird times. Hey, love you guys. If you're still here with me, don't forget to hit that like button, like, hype, subscribe. Check out our Patreon channel. The descriptions to book a personal reading with myself or with Miriam are in the channel notes. Love you guys. Until next time. Bye bye.